Brilliance Audio presents Primitive Mythology, The Masks of God, Volume 1, by Joseph Campbell, performed by Arthur Morey. The Imprints of Early Infancy. Certain imprints, impressed upon the nervous system in the plastic period between birth and maturity, are the source of many of the most widely known images of myth. Necessarily the same for all mankind, they have been variously organized in the differing traditions, but everywhere function as potent energy releasers and directors. The first indelible imprints are those of the moment of birth itself. The congestion of blood and sense of suffocation experienced by the infant before its lungs commence to operate give rise to a brief seizure of terror, the physical effects of which, caught breath, circulatory congestion, dizziness, or even blackout, tend to recur, more or less strongly, whenever there is an abrupt moment of fright. So that the birth trauma, as an archetype of transformation, floods with considerable emotional effect the brief moment of loss of security and threat of death that accompanies any crisis of radical change. In the imagery of mythology and religion, this birth, or more often rebirth, theme is extremely prominent. In fact, every threshold passage, not only this from the darkness of the womb to the light of the sun, but also those from childhood to adult life, and from the light of the world to whatever mystery of darkness may lie beyond the portal of death, is comparable to a birth, and has been ritually represented practically everywhere through an imagery of re-entry into the womb. This is one of those mythological universals that surely merit interpretation rather from a psychological than from an ethnological point of view. The water image in mythology is intimately associated with this motif, and the goddesses, mermaids, witches, and sirens that often appear as guardians or manifestations of water, wells, watercourses, youth-renewing cauldrons, ladies of the lake, and other water nixies, may represent either its life-threatening or its life-furthering aspect. The late classical story of Actaeon, for example, as rendered in Ovid's Metamorphoses, tells of a hunter, a vigorous youth in the prime of his young manhood, who, when stalking deer with his dogs, chanced upon a stream that he followed to its source, where he broke upon the goddess Diana bathing, surrounded by a galaxy of naked nymphs. And the youth, not spiritually prepared for such a supernormal image, had only the normal look in his eye, whereupon the goddess, perceiving this, sent forth her power and transformed him into a stag, which his own dogs then immediately scented, pursued, and tore to bits. On the simple level of a typical Freudian reading, this mythical episode represents the prurient anxiety of a small boy discovering mother. But according to a more sophisticated, sublimated vein of reference, more appropriate to the post-Alexandrian atmosphere of Ovid's elegant art, Diana was a manifestation of that goddess-mother of the world, whom we have already met as Queen Isis, and who, as she herself has told us, was known to the cultures of the Mediterranean under many names. The case surely is that of an apadi, an inferior object, mother image, serving as a symbol of a superior, the mystery of life. Meditating, we may emphasize the superior, in which case we are performing what in India is termed sampad upasana, accomplished or perfected meditation. Or we may emphasize the inferior, which is termed adhyasa upasana, superimposed or false meditation. The first elevates to the supernormal, the second leaves one about as Actaeon, to be psychoanalyzed, finally, to bits, and returned to the womb.